Hey guys, John Lee Dumas here, founder and host of EO Fire, and you're listening to Bravepreneur Parents Academy with Balaji O.
Welcome to Bravepreneur Parents Academy, where the world's most inspiring entrepreneurs reveal their most defining childhood moments and share their legacy for raising brave little heroes who will grow up to change the world. And now, he still reads comic books under the blanket at bedtime. Please welcome your host, best-selling author, award-winning speaker, and self-confessed geek dad, Balaji O. You know, like the hotel in Vegas? Yeah, no, that's really his name. Balaji O.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Bravepreneur Parents Academy. Today, we're talking to one of the most famous people that you may not have heard about before. But after this conversation, you'll know this man's name. Brian Horn is the co-founder of Authority Alchemy. You've seen him on Huffington Post. You've seen him in Entrepreneur magazine. You might have heard of him talking on Howard Stern or Perez Hilton. He hangs out with people like Vanilla Ice and Richard Simmons. Brian's worked with some of the biggest and most authoritative names across multiple industries. This guy is the secret weapon behind celebrity authority. But today, we're going to be talking about Brian's number one job, dad. So, without further ado, please help me welcome the internet rock star, the authority agent superstar, the man that celebrities all have on speed dial, Brian Horn. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm going to use that intro for everything for a long time, I think. I'm ready to step into a cage somewhere, do some battle.
You know, we're actually going to talk about that because I heard the word on the street is that you might have stepped into the ring a time or two, Brian.
I am getting into the cage a little bit now.
Wow. We definitely have to hear about that, but let's kind of unpack this story. Before we get to all the fireworks and everything, let's go back. We want to know where Superman came from. Basically, how did your parents create the man that we see before us today? So, with your permission, we're going to go through a lightning round of your childhood. Is that going to work for you?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Get ready to go into the gauntlet. Here we go. First question. Favorite superhero?
I always like Batman.
Batman. Oh,
yeah.
Batman's a classic, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's classic. And I can see him matching up with you, too, with the cage fighting and all that.
I guess so.
What about your favorite cartoon show?
It was probably go back like that. I think when I was a kid, it was either Super Friends or Justice League of America. One of those I remember as a kid.
Okay. Yeah, my 8-year-old son's actually watching that right now. It's a really good show.
Yeah, I really dug that as a kid for sure. The old Hanna-Barbera one.
Yeah. Did you ever get into video games? Did you have a favorite video game?
Yeah, when I was a kid, I'm my early 40s right now. So it was Atari 2600 was a
Oh my goodness.
So
yes.
I loved. I played Pitfall all the time. Was one I just thought was the greatest thing ever. And then the Space Invaders and just pretty much all on that were the ones I really got into.
The good stuff. I grew up on that as well.
Yeah.
That's great. Did you guys have a favorite family tradition when you were growing up?
Yeah, probably I'd say, and this is a pretty typical one, but like Christmas morning, we'd always just stay to just our immediate family on Christmas morning. My sister and I would wake up and yell downstairs to our parents. They'd come out and get things kind of set up down there. And we'd run down the stairs and open presents from Santa Claus first and have breakfast, and we'd open up packages from each other. It was always a great memory. We still do that. That's great.
Well, what kind of motivated you, Brian, as a child? What kind of kid were you? What was your personality, and what kind of drove you?
I was definitely a do-it-my-own way kind of guy. I always wanted to. I really didn't even notice it back then, but I always did things just a little bit different from normal. I was just thinking about this the other day. I was talking to someone about what languages you studied in high school. You had to take a foreign language in high school, at least in Texas, and just about everybody took Spanish. I mean, living in Texas,
of course,
everything was Spanish, and after that was French. Probably Spanish was probably 70% probably. The almost full remaining was French, And there's 8 people in the entire school that decided to take Latin. I was one of those 8 people. Just because it was this small class, nobody else was taking it. It was weird. I just, that kind of stuff always appealed to me. And
Latin? Were you being punished? Oh my goodness!
I have no idea why I did that. I still think it back. I had no interest in going into medicine or law, which would make sense because it's it's what a lot of those words are based off of. It was just I just wanted to do it because most other people were not doing it. I wanted to march to the beat of my own drum, I think.
That's fascinating. So Brian, a lot of us have some defining moments that stand out in our memory from childhood, whether it was a moment of really being brave, a moment of being embarrassed, a funny moment. Could you kind of recall or share with us one of those maybe really embarrassing moments as a child? Do you have any of those?
Yeah, of course. I'm kind of an idiot. Do still think through things a lot. So I have a lot of dumb ones. But some of them that I think back to the first time when I was in like 7th grade. I was in a drama class. And the teacher that just really, I don't think she got along with my parents. I think she knew them from other stuff. And so she really kind of took it out on me and really enjoyed, pulling me up in front of class and tried to humiliate me. And that was my first time experiencing something like that. And that stuck with me for a while. It was a tough one going through that and battles with parents going back and forth and principal stuff to really give me a hard time. But, looking back on it, it's, what are you going to do? It's nothing that really sticks me or formed, really changed me a whole lot. I don't think, but it was one of those things that I really, look back and it still gives me I can still feel it in the pit of my stomach when I think about it.
Interesting. And so looking at your Latin class experience, how some of your personality was shown there, and this teacher in 7th grade, where did your identity sort of come from? Some of those things may not have factored into your identity so much. Maybe others did. But ultimately, where did your identity, Brian Horn, come from?
A lot of it came from family, of course. My immediate family. We were a fairly close-knit family. We were involved with the church and stuff. But a lot of it from early on, I started really being an entrepreneur when I was about in 5th grade. I did things from lawn mowing, raising Dalmatians. I had a mobile DJ business for many years. And so a lot of it came from that because I was, and still am, I can be, in the right situations, I can be, very social. I have no problems doing this. I've talked on stage in front of, thousands of people. I have no problem with that. But if I get in a party type atmosphere with just regular people, I don't know what to say. I'm completely uncomfortable. I don't know what to do. So a lot of my identity came from I retreated to entrepreneurship. So I could do that. When I was a DJ, I could go to all the dances and parties. I could be the person in front of everything, and I had no problem. I didn't have to sit there and have idle chit chat with people, which I still don't like. And if it's something to talk, if something relevant to talk about, I'll love to talk about it. But just the BS chit chat stuff, I still have I'm so uncomfortable. I'm so uncomfortable doing still. So that was where a lot of it came from. How that success was in just giving me a reason to be out in places doing things with other people where I could be comfortable.
That's really fascinating. A lot of entrepreneurs I've found started early. They had some signs of entrepreneurial traits as children. I, for example, at age 9 or 10, was selling hand-drawn Spider-Man sketches for lunch money. But you actually had full-blown businesses, like profitable businesses. Yeah. Where did you get that savvy from? Were your parents entrepreneurs?
They were not, but my dad really pushed me into that. I think, he could tell early on that I would be just an awful employee. I'd be terrible. So I was not a good worker doing stuff around the house. I'd get sidetracked, wanted to do things my own way, try to figure other ways out to do stuff. I was a little lazy. And so he really pushed me into that, gave me very good guidance on that. Looking back, it was very brilliant guidance. He pushed me into those things, and then I think a lot of it was just having that just that natural inkling where that's just something you can just do. Entrepreneurs, you really can't. It's one of the things you really can't train somebody to do. You can give them some guidance and push them, but there's just that certain thing that us entrepreneurs have that allow us to do that. But they may make us very weak in other areas, which I'm sure is what he saw. I've worked for other people. I was never a good employee for sure.
And that's fascinating. I was going to ask next about your parenting style. You've talked about being a close family. You had some upbringing in the church, and your father, even though he wasn't an entrepreneur, was able to nurture that entrepreneurship in you. I find that fascinating. Generally, what was your parents' parenting style?
They both were different. My dad was he was the main income provider. He was a executive in power companies and oil companies in Houston. Was very involved in that. We lived he probably drove 45 minutes or an hour each day. So that's going to come out 2 hours a day is gone, then working 8 or 9 hours. So he would pretty much leave at 7 in the morning, get back about 7 at night. Then he'd eat dinner, and he'd want to do. We had lived out in the country a little bit and had several acres we lived on. So had horses. So there was always work to do. He went out and would start doing work, and so there was very little. Very little dad time. So
downtime.
Yeah, so he was very much into his career and taking care of house stuff as opposed to being really involved with day-to-day stuff with us. My mom was, but he was still pretty laid back about everything. Nothing really got to him. My mom was very much more the day-to-day stuff. She was more of the disciplinarian and the one pushing us, making sure homework was done, providing that guidance. So she was much more involved in the day-to-day stuff and was much more of a taskmaster type stuff. And it's a good way to describe the two different parenting styles. Like they would each summer they would trade off planning the family vacation.
Interesting.
When my dad's turn was, we would go up to Colorado to camp for 2 weeks. I have no plans. We had just jump in the car, pull the camper behind us, go up. We just find a spot to camp and hang out.
Got it.
Buy food on the way, relax. When it's my mom's turn, we would go to Disney World, and every day we'd have what rides.
Nice.
In order, on the map, where we eat lunch, what little places we go to buy snacks at certain times, and just have it planned out exactly. So that is the best way to describe the two different parenting styles, because that carried over into exactly who they were and everything.
That is hilarious. I couldn't think if I have that. That's great to be able to capture that difference in styles in that one little analogy there. And it sort of makes me wonder if that happens on purpose. I mean, imagine if both your parents were either like your mom or both either like your dad. Things might have worked out a little bit differently.
Yeah, it was good having the balance, I guess.
Yeah. And so, Brian, you're now married. You have a son. Let's transition and talk a little bit about your transition from just being Brian Horn to working to getting married and now finally becoming a father. So what was that transition into parenthood like for you? It came on really fast because my son was born. The first day or two was pretty normal, going through the hospital, getting little people coming in, taking pictures, doctor saying he's okay, everything was rolling around fine. And then we were about to go home, and the nurse came in to do some final tests and said his temperature had dropped some, so they want to take him down to the little nurses station, put him under the light and do some checks. And then a few minutes later, my mother-in-law came in just in tears, saying, something was wrong with Jackson. Something's wrong with Jackson. We start running out there, and the little blue lights are flashing. We hear him saying giving the alert, and see some doctors, everybody rushing down. He has a crowd of people there working on him, reviving him. He was just gray and limp, and then it seemed like a while for us, but it probably wasn't very long at all. Not even 20, 30 seconds before everything was fine. He was all back to color, and they had him all cool. Just hooked him up to some stuff. But they said, we want to find out what happened. We're going to keep him on a little bit longer. We're going to put him in the intensive care unit to monitor. And then a couple days later,
we found out that he had Down syndrome, which was one of the reasons that would happen. So when we had no idea at that point at all.
Wow.
Total surprise. So that really gave you a fast forward or a crash course into parenthood that you didn't plan for. So it was very different. It wasn't the typical route most people go, where you have your baby, you come home, and you have a few sleepless nights, you slowly adjust to things. Ours was just like, wham! Here's all this stuff. He's be in the intensive care unit for a week, so you can be up here at these times. So I was sleeping up there, and when they had just sitting there with them in the intensive care unit all the time, except when nurses switched, they'd kick us out for a couple hours. I'd go and do some work on my laptop and take a nap in a chair sitting up. And I did that for a good week. Just lived up there, and then once we got home and things, we started getting the pattern, came to terms with what that meant. Then it became became more of a typical parent type role or type process. But it came very fast. So I was thrust into that for sure.
Wow. That's amazing. And first, as a parent, when you talked about the blue lights flashing and the doctors crowding around, I mean, even though I know Jackson is okay now, I still had that fear in my throat, like, oh my gosh, what happened? It's the scariest thing to be a parent and to have your child be in a situation where you don't feel you can actually help that child. So that must have been terrifying for you guys.
Oh, very much so. Very, very much. Scariest moment of my life, for sure.
Wow. And so the Down syndrome diagnosis. Now, maybe you can educate me and our listener a little bit. Is Down syndrome a condition that's typically caught during the pregnancy?
Depends. Up until the last maybe 6 months to a year, the only way to do it was to have a particular type of test in where they would take a test of the amniotic fluid, and there was not a high chance, but there was a reasonably high probability if you do that you could cause a miscarriage or injure the fetus also. So we said, well, we really don't. It wouldn't make a difference either way. We're both Christians. We're pro-life, so we would not have made a change in if we're going to have a baby or not.
Yes.
So he just said, okay, that's we don't want to do it. So they did other tests where they took some. They could take not X-rays, but something like that. They could look at the sonograms and see some things and get some indicators of the probability. And ours, they said, was a very low probability. But that's about it. But now they have a where they could just test blood and get a reasonably good indicator if the baby is going to have Down syndrome or other types of genetic abnormalities.
And so, Brian, I recall from some of the stories you've told that you subsequently got a tattoo.
Yeah, I got a
butterfly tattoo. Could you talk about that? What does that mean?
Yeah, what I got on my tattoo is it's on my right arm, and it's of the chrysalis of the butterfly. So it starts off with it has a part of just the cocoon, then it has a butterfly coming out of the cocoon, then as it goes up higher, it has the full butterfly. And the butterfly is the international symbol for Down syndrome. And what I did this process was showing my experience and growth through the process of learning that he had Down syndrome. When you're the cocoon is where and whenever you go through any type of event that's particularly either you can call it a crisis, I guess, because that one was a crisis, something really, really bad that happens to you, or you imagine it's bad. Either that could be the loss of a loved one, having your business go bankrupt, or a divorce, or in this case, you find out your child you thought was going to be perfect and typical actually has something that's making him a little bit different, make life more challenging. So the first phase you go through with that is you just want to close yourself off to the world. I did that. I self-medicated with alcohol and drugs. I just drank hard, took pills every night just to be able to fall asleep.
Wow.
And I mean, we were talking about fetal position on the floor, just crying, drinking till you pass out every night for a while, and so that's the phase you go through. You go through stuff like that whenever you have some tragedy. That's a normal thing. It may not be to the point of doing the alcohol and stuff, but you're going to go through hard periods like that, and then you start to slowly emerge from it. It's like a butterfly coming out of the cocoon, out of that darkness. You're starting to really work hard, and that's where all the workplace takes. You're tearing yourself out of that dark cocoon. You got to just work hard. So I did things like I joined the board of directors for the local Down Syndrome Association. I raised some money for the local group here. I got involved working with other kids. And I was writing about it constantly, sharing the story with my followers. Really doing that. That's more of it was kind of part of a therapeutic type thing for me, just helping me get through that point. And then the final phase, when the butterfly comes out, that you really emerge better than you were before, more beautiful than you were before, than you thought possible. And you get to a point where I could see, not just accept the situation with him having Down syndrome, which is what I was before, but really get to the point where you really appreciate it, where I see, wow, this makes him so special. This is really a unique gift. And now I see like the almond-shaped eyes, the smaller noses, where their little tongues protrude. They were kind of short and get a little chunky. All those things are things now I don't just say, oh, okay, that's what he is. Where I love that. And I see that in other ones, and it's endearing. So so that's what the title was, just to show all the phases of what I to remind me about that.
Wow. And so, Brian, I'm fascinated by this. What perhaps are some things about parenting a child with Down syndrome that other parents may not be aware of or may not appreciate?
It's the thing is, I'll tell you, it is really not that different. Now we have a daughter also. And she's typical. She's 3. My son is 5. And it's just not that different. Aside from him doing things a little slower, he's still really not very verbal. He can communicate. He has 50 plus signs he can do. So he knows sign language pretty well. He's starting to say some things, but the 3-year-old is talking far more than him. Mm-hmm. So besides that, and him just he's just like a younger version of a 5-year-old. He's kind of terrible too. So he's very stubborn, and some things he won't understand. So you have to, like if they're in class, when all the class line up, the teacher can say, okay, everybody line up. The little 3-year-old run and line up, and he'll go off and do something else until you kind of just point him over there and say, okay, see everybody else lining up, go like that, then he'll go over there and do it. So it's just, you have to have more patience and just give a little bit more attention to it, but it's not that different.
Interesting. So Brian, what would you say now? You've got 2 beautiful kids. What would you say is your number one job as dad?
I would say just being the good example and always in front of them. Everything, all the stuff that you've not. Making the money, that's just your job as a dad. That's just something that's required. So I can't say because you're making a living or providing for them is the number one thing, because that's just a given. But being that good example of keeping myself physically fit, where they see me exercise, they see me eating right, so they do it too. They see me being nice to mom. They see me doing, reading. They see me doing other things besides just being that good example where they can imitate what I'm doing. I know that's what I want them to do.
And being not just a parent, but an entrepreneur parent, that's almost like owning a business is like having another child.
Yes.
A stubborn, willful,
absolutely
selfish child. So how are you handling the balance? How are you excelling? Because you're obviously excelling on the entrepreneurial side, and you're doing amazing things on the parenting side. So are you sleeping at all, or how do you manage the balance?
Yeah, what you gotta do, don't work now nearly as much as I used to when I was starting out before the kids. So it does take that. I would work all the time when I was in my late 20s, early 30s and stuff, when I was really first getting started as in this particular field I'm in now. And now I really work during the day, and not even 8 hours usually about 6 hours or so a day, and maybe do like another hour or so at night. Or I wake up early in the mornings, do a little bit of stuff, but it's really about that, having that balance where instead of stretching things out, I do it during the day, and we outsource a lot of work. I just push it out there because I could easily work all the time if I wanted to, but I can outsource it, enjoy life, and just focus on the parts that I'm good at.
That's great. That's definitely a big lesson for all us entrepreneurs, because we get into the mode of working so much, we could become addicted to working. I know my wife's called me out on that a number of times.
Absolutely. Very easy to do that.
Yeah. So Brian, as we kind of transition into the close for our little conversation here, I like to do something that we refer to as a time capsule. So let's pretend we are maybe 30 years in the future, and your kids, who are now grown, are getting to listen to this conversation. What would you want to say to them, Brian, about this period of their lives? 2015, they're 5 and 3 years old, or they were 5 and 3 years old. What would you want to say to them about the choices you made, the memories you had? What would you want to say to them?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. Just that I hope they knew that I was spending as much time with them as possible and trying to be as a good example to them as possible. That I just really enjoyed the heck out of every moment I spent with them.
That's it. That's great. That's great. Brian, do you have any favorite resources or maybe a favorite lesson about parenting that you'd want to share with our fellow entrepreneur parents?
About parenting. I was thinking maybe it's like marketing and business stuff instead of parenting. I really don't. I think just that about the little story of the tattoo. I wrote about that in the Huffington Post. I think it's called the Dad with a Butterfly Tattoo. They can Google that and read that in more detail. That it really just tells a whole story of me, not just because of the way, not just because of my son, because that process completely changed how I see everything. Not just the kids with Down syndrome, or even not just kids with special needs, but I see absolutely everybody. Because now, if I can look at my son, who most of the world would consider disabled or less than a typical person, or even burdens on societies, or in Eastern Europe, their parents give them up immediately. They're thrown into they're chained to beds for the rest of their lives, and that's what used to happen 20, 30 years ago in the U.S. That's the same thing that happened here. So we're just a little bit ahead of that. So it used to be also. If I can see him as just a perfect little being, child of God that just should be just part of society, then I'm able to see absolutely everybody like that. So it completely wipes away all the bitterness I used to have about other political viewpoints, or about just people that were different, or I felt were drains on society, or were evil people. It completely wipes away. So man, at some point this guy or this girl was this little person being held by their mom or their dad. Their dad just looking down, holding their hand, walking them into the grocery store. Just thought they were the greatest thing in the world. I'm able to see everybody like that. So anytime I get irritated or angry at somebody else, I imagine them being a little person holding their dad's hand, walking them into the grocery store. Because I was walking with my daughter one time. She's holding my little finger, and I was going, man, she's just so perfect. And able to see other people like that, man, it just completely wipes out all the other stuff. But man, they're the thing I like to use with that also is, everybody is doing the absolute best they can at that exact moment. So everything that's gone in somebody's life up to that point affected how they're reacting at that exact time. So even if they're being a jerk or yelling at you right then, something else happened that made them that way. Or even the guy that's broke into your car and stole your computer out of it. There's a whole backstory of things that went on in his life up to that point that created that to happen. And so you just, people doing the best they can right now. They made a mistake. It's not that big a deal. God loves them. Their daddy held their hand and walked to the grocery store, thought they were the greatest thing in the world. And he's right. They just are, something happened that led to them making a bad decision right now. Once I got that down, I'm so much happier.
Well, you were just messing up every type of grudge that I was trying to hold against people, because picturing them as that little child holding their dad's finger, that I've never heard it put that way before. That's definitely something I'm going to use. So thanks for sharing that.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, folks. Well, we've taken up enough of Brian's time. We're going to let him go. Brian is the co-founder of the consulting firm Authority Alchemy. He also writes for the Huffington Post, Entrepreneur magazine, and he is an expert on authority marketing and personal branding. By the way, we didn't get to talk about it, but he kicks butt at mixed martial arts. So maybe we'll cover that on another episode. But this has been an extreme pleasure. Brian, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
And Brian, where can folks learn more about what you do?
Just come to authorityalchemy.com. We've got podcast episodes, got some articles, we have some free video training and downloadable goodies on that site. So just come check us out.
It's a fantastic resource. Brian is one of my business mentors. He's a great guy, and he really knows what he's talking about in business, so definitely check him out. This has been a fun conversation. You've been listening to Balaji O. and Brian Horn on the Bravepreneur Parents Academy. We'll see you tomorrow on the next episode.
Fear not. Although this chapter of Bravepreneur Parents Academy has come to its conclusion, we have many more adventures for you and your brave little heroes. Head over to bravequest.me for access to the Brave Quest Journal, an interactive activity playbook that rewards your little ones with points for accomplishing tasks that build character and unleash your child's inner superhero all before bedtime. We look forward to having you join us for more adventures next time on Bravepreneur Parents Academy.